Do you like this pick, Jordan Poole, by the Warriors?
Maybe the worst pick in the draft so far.
There we go.
And there's nothing against Jordan Poole. No offense, dude. I think the guy could be a rotation NBA player someday. But if you're going to get a guy who can come in and make shots, you're picking a sophomore. You're picking a guy who's 20 years old and has some growth to do. This is a guy that you likely could have gotten as an undrafted free agent. So this is such an overdraft. Like when we talk about that Cam Johnson pick at number 11 being an overdraft, this is much more of an overdraft. There's less at stake here because you're picking in the low 20s. You're not picking in the lottery. But this is an absolutely inexplicable pick by the Warriors.
Jordan Poole has risen to stardom for the Golden State Warriors, becoming one of the most promising young point guards in the league. He was doubted from the very start of his career. The expectations for Jordan Poole were that of a player who would be out of the league in a couple years. Fortunately for the Warriors and Jordan Poole, he had other plans for his future in the NBA. Poole went from one of the worst players in all of basketball to an integral part of a championship-winning team. How does one of the worst offensive players in all of basketball become an offensive star virtually overnight? How does a player destined for failure turn it all around?
In front of us to Abdul-Rahman at midcourt, extra pass. And it goes for the win! The three-pointer by Jordan Poole!
Four-star recruit Jordan Poole committed to the University of Michigan. There he played 2 seasons for the Wolverines, averaging 6 points per game in his first season. In his first year, within the second round of the March Madness tournament, Jordan Poole hit one of the most memorable game winners in recent history, helping push the Wolverines to the Sweet 16 and eventually reach the national championship, where they ended up losing to Villanova. In his second season with the Wolverines, Jordan Poole averaged 12 points per game and reached the Sweet 16 in his final season with Michigan. Jordan Poole had shown signs that he was ready to play in the NBA, so he decided to declare for the NBA draft.
With the 28th pick in the 2019 NBA Draft, the Golden State Warriors select Jordan Poole from the University of Michigan.
Jordan Poole has been taken by the Golden State Warriors with the 28th overall pick, a franchise which was towards the end of a dynastic run. Also a franchise that has seen great success in developing young players as its core was mainly built from the draft. Jordan Poole landed in the perfect situation for himself, but the commentary around the pick was negative. Jordan Poole was seen as a horrible draft pick for the Golden State Warriors, that he had poor shot selection, couldn't take care of the ball, and they believed there were concerns with his maturity. There was a strong belief that this pick did not have a high ceiling and a very low floor. There were many doubters amongst the media and the fan base at the time of the draft. With the belief that the Warriors wasted another first-round pick, there were many concerns that Jordan Poole would have to answer, and non-believers that he would have to prove wrong.
Really, it's a high level both ways. Oh my God, Jordan Poole step back three! We said attack Damian Lillard.
Jordan Poole's first season in the league was filled with opportunity. He has the golden ticket to a bright future, getting to play along Steph, Clay, Draymond, and D'Angelo Russell in his first year in the NBA. Oh wait, unfortunately that didn't really happen, and the Warriors were sent into a losing hell, where they would finish the season with a 15-50 record. Jordan Poole's first year was not a success in the slightest. Jordan Poole individually had a very up and down first season in the league. He averaged 8.8 points per game on 27% from 3 and 33% from the field. He had a terrible first half of the season where he eventually was assigned to the G League on December 28, 2019. Jordan played 3 games in the G League and averaged 26 points per game on 42% from 3. Amazing stats that earned him his spot back on the NBA team. In the second half of the season, he played 28 games and averaged 10 points per game on 31% from 3 and 40% from the field, which is much better than what he was doing in the first half of the season. But this still wasn't close to good enough to maintain a spot in the NBA. It was clear Jordan Poole had a lot of work to do, and if he failed to improve, he would be out of the league. Year 2 for Jordan Poole and the Warriors was one with a lot of misfortune and outside pressure to return to the level they were at with Kevin Durant. Unfortunately, things weren't going to plan. Klay Thompson ended up tearing his Achilles on the day of the draft, changing all the plans the Warriors had for the season. There was now more pressure on Steph Curry to overperform and carry his team to the playoffs. More than ever, guys like Jordan Poole needed to step up and perform to help Steph on a charge for the playoffs. The Warriors added Brad Wanamaker, Kelly Oubre, and second overall pick James Wiseman to the team. It was now time to start the year, and it seemed like Jordan Poole had lost his place in the roster. There was no longer secured playing time for the second-year guard. To start the season, Jordan Poole was not playing his best basketball. In Poole's first 15 games, he averaged 5.5 points per game in 9 minutes. He was not receiving the opportunities needed to show off his talents. It was clear the young guard needed more time to get a rhythm for himself. On January 31st, Jordan Poole was sent to the G League. It was disappointing, of course, for Jordan Poole, but it was a chance to get some proper game time in to prove what he can do. From the Point Forward podcast, Jordan Poole stated that in the G League, he tried to emulate Steph's routine during a game. Where he shoots, where he passes, clock management, and more were all things Poole looked at and tried to copy from Steph's game. His elite determination and mindset worked in his favor as Poole averaged 22.4 points per game on 50% from the field in 11 games. Poole proved that he was ready to return to the main roster and make an instant impact. In Jordan Poole's first game back versus the Suns, he dropped 26 points on 62% from the field and 50% from 3, a breakout performance where the flashes of his true potential were on display. Jordan Poole carried this momentum through the rest of the season, where in 36 games he averaged 14 points per game on 43% from the field and 35% from 3. All of this in only 23 minutes per game. It seemed that Jordan found his role with the Warriors, being the scoring threat they needed off the bench. With the flashes shown from Poole over the second half of the season, he was quickly thrust into 6th man of the year and most improved conversations for the next season. Jordan took advantage of the opportunity he got, and it was clear that he was ready to dominate. Going into year 3, the Warriors were expected to be a much better team with the return of Klay Thompson at some point during the season and the acquisitions of Otto Porter Jr., GP2, and Andre Iguodala, along with their 2 new rookie draft picks, Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody. The reason that expectations for the team were truly higher was because of the potential ascension of Jordan Poole. Poole was the second option offensively to Steph with Klay out for the most of the season, and the question was, could Jordan Poole live up to that role? Poole's performance last season was a sign of what could come for the young guard, but the questions were if he could consistently do it over an entire year and improve upon it. Well, Jordan Poole answered all of those questions throughout the season. Jordan Poole is mainly in a starting role next to Steph and dominated, averaging 18 points per game on 44% from the field and 36% from 3, while leading the league in free throw percentage at 92%. He took what he did last year and improved on everything. Poole has the ability to finish at the rim, create his shot off the dribble, and shoot it with elite efficiency, something the Warriors hadn't had outside of Steph since KD left and Sean Livingston retired. His most impressive stretch of the season was a 17-game stretch where he scored at least 20-plus points per game, a stretch that put him up with Steph and KD as the only ones to do that in Warriors history. Jordan Poole was an integral proponent to the Warriors' success over the 2021 to 2022 season, helping push the Warriors to a 53-29 record, good for the 3rd seed in the West. It's clear the sky's the limit for Jordan Poole, but we had to see whether he could do it in the playoffs where it mattered most. The first series of the playoffs for the Golden State Warriors was against the MVP-led Nikola Jokic Nuggets. This series was one the Warriors were heavily favored in due to the injured roster that the Nuggets had, but you can never count out an MVP. Jordan Poole was the starting point guard for the Warriors in this series, as Steph Curry was returning from an injury and decided to come off the bench for the team. This only unlocked Jordan Poole.
Poole, the Euro, counted! It's really paying off. There's the sidestep 3, off the bounce!
Poole exploded for 30 points in Game 1 on 70% from the field and 71% from 3, a breakout for the young star on the biggest stage in the NBA. In the next 2 games, Poole dropped 29 and 27 points, helping secure the Warriors a 3-0 lead in the series, which then allowed them to close it in 5. Throughout the series, Jordan Poole averaged 21 points per game on 54% from the field and 48% from 3, with 5 assists to go along with 1 steal per game. Those are great numbers for his first playoff series in the NBA. In the second round of the playoffs, the Warriors had to face their young rivals in the Memphis Grizzlies with rising superstar Ja Morant. The Grizzlies had many great young players on the roster playing at a high level, so the Warriors' young guys, especially Jordan Poole, would have to match the energy. Jordan Poole returned to the bench for this series where he had been a little inconsistent throughout the season, so there were questions if he could keep up his high-level offense on the bench. Fortunately for the Warriors, Poole answered those questions quickly. Game 1 of this series, Poole came out hot again, scoring 30 points on 60% from the field and 50% from 3, helping the Warriors win Game 1 on the road, capturing home court. Poole was able to provide steady offensive production all throughout the series, even with the drama that the Grizzlies tried to stir. Poole was clearly becoming the third scoring option on this team and a consistent scorer at that. With the Warriors winning in 6 games, they make the Western Conference Finals for the first time since 2019. The Warriors have made the Western Conference Finals and will face the Dallas Mavericks led by Luka Doncic, with a chance to make the NBA Finals on the line. The Warriors would have to play their best basketball to take advantage of this opportunity. This team was far too experienced to crumble in a moment like this, which instilled confidence in the young guys like Jordan Poole, who is experiencing many firsts during this playoff run. Dallas was a good team having a great playoff run, but it was evident quickly they were not in the same universe as the Warriors. Poole averaged 16 points per game on 60% from the field and 40% from 3. Very solid numbers to help push the Warriors to a victory in 5 games and make the NBA Finals. This is the biggest test Jordan Poole has faced so far in his extremely young career. To play in the NBA Finals is a different level of pressure, and the question was, how would he handle it? Would he crumble? Or would he continue to help the Warriors win when it mattered most? The NBA Finals are the biggest stage in all of basketball, a place where the veteran Big Three has been many times, while the rest of the team is relatively new to this type of playoff environment, especially Jordan Poole. The Warriors would end up facing the young but very experienced Boston Celtics, led by Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, heading one of the best defensive teams in all of basketball. An ESPN API index predicted the Celtics to have an over an 86% chance to win the series, and the Warriors under 20%. The Warriors were the underdogs in the series, and they would need to see players like Jordan Poole provide enough support for the Big Three so that they could win this series and become NBA champions. Contrary to the regular for Jordan Poole, he was relatively inconsistent, playing only 20 minutes a game due to his inability to guard late in games. He had shorter stints to provide high-level offense, which Jordan was able to do in many games throughout this series. He was a positive plus-minus in all of the Warriors' wins and averaged 13 points per game off the bench. Poole hit many clutch half-court shot buzzer beaters to push the momentum in the Warriors' favor in many late-game moments in this series. Poole's most integral moment was in Game 6, where he scored 11 points in the Warriors' 21-0 run, which pushed the Warriors to a large enough lead later in the game that they would be able to close and become NBA champions. Jordan Poole at 22 is an NBA champion and an integral sixth man to a championship team. The future is extremely bright for Jordan Poole. Fans had high hopes that he could become even better. Things are still good for Jordan Poole, as the Warriors offered him a 4-year, $140 million extension, which he gladly took. All parties were happy and excited for the future that Jordan Poole would have with the Warriors. But, unfortunately for Poole, after this huge high, things went downhill very quickly.
Golden State Warriors All-Star Draymond Green threw a punch at his teammate Jordan Poole at practice on Wednesday.
It's going to leave a stain on their relationship that it will never be the same. And not just with those two human beings, with anybody that's close to Jordan. And I'm going to tell you another secret. With the organization, too.
Teammate Draymond Green, one of the biggest leaders on the roster, punched Jordan Poole in a scrimmage before the season started. The video was leaked and the news coverage was monumental around the situation, putting the young player Poole in a very awkward and embarrassing situation. Immediately, the championship vibes were gone, and the Warriors as a team became very fractured. Jordan Poole started the year very poorly, as in his first 20 games he averaged 15 points per game on 40% from the field and 30% from 3 with 3 turnovers a game. Suddenly, Poole's slick jump shot and elite handle had disappeared and he seemed uncomfortable out there. His defensive struggles were put on display more than ever throughout the season, as he was constantly targeted and seemed to show little to no effort on that end. His role off the bench only caused more inconsistencies for a player that just had the worst start to a season anyone can have. His inability to play defense defense and his extreme struggles in the final minutes of games plagued his season. Many moments throughout this stretch and the season, Poole would turn the ball over in the final moments, and it showed a form of regression from the young star that he was. Poole finished the season shooting 33% from 3 on 20 points per game with 3 turnovers a game. Poole was 24th in the league in fouls committed at 214 and 3rd amongst all guards. Poole was 5th in the league on loose ball turnovers at 77. Although his scoring went up, most would say the season was a regression to the promising form that he showed the year before. The Warriors ended up as the 6th seed in the NBA playoffs, matching them up with the Sacramento Kings in the first round. This was a chance for Poole to redeem himself for the relatively subpar season compared to the standards he'd set for the year prior. Unfortunately for the Warriors, Poole could not produce much of anything for them. He averaged 12 points per game on 33% from the field and 25% from 3. Poole was in a massive slump and could not find his jump shot at really any point in the series. Thankfully, the heroics of Steph Curry were enough to push the Warriors to the second round, beating the Kings in 7 games. The Warriors would then match up with the Lakers, a team that had amazing paint defense but were relatively weak on the perimeter, so it seems like a much better matchup for Jordan Poole. Game 1, Jordan Poole scored 21 points and had the chance to hit the game winner against the Lakers to redeem himself for the terrible performance he had against the Kings.
Double team. Jordan Poole lets it fly. No!
But he missed it, and the Warriors would lose Game 1. After this performance, there was hope Poole could kick up and become that impact player he was last year in the playoffs, but instead the struggles continued. Excluding Game 1 of this series, Jordan Poole would average 5.8 points per game on 30% from the field and 0.059% from 3 in 18 minutes. This performance was an absolute disaster from Jordan Poole and a far cry from the player he was last season. His inability to provide any good minutes for the Warriors resulted in a series loss to the Lakers in 6 games, their first loss to a Western Conference team in the Steve Kerr era. The Warriors now enter the offseason with many questions around Jordan Poole's future with the team. As we've reached the offseason, Bob Myers has decided to step down from the Golden State Warriors, and Mike Dunleavy would step up to become the new general manager. And his first move was to trade Jordan Poole to the Washington Wizards for Chris Paul. Jordan Poole now gets to become a lead guy for a franchise that is rebuilding. Poole gets everything that he always wanted in becoming a permanent starter, and Poole gets a fresh start and a chance to become the face of the Washington Wizards. At the start of his career, Jordan Poole was one of the worst players in basketball, and he was able to rise up from that low and become an NBA champion. But due to offseason drama and a multitude of inconsistencies throughout the regular season that fractured this team, resulted in a terrible overall season for Jordan Poole. Last year, it seemed impossible for the Warriors to even think about trading him, but now he's been traded for an extremely old Chris Paul. A promising young star and the heir apparent to Steph Curry has come crashing down as quickly as it was built up. Now a Washington Wizard, Jordan Poole has the freedom of a new environment. Hopefully, the young guard can bounce back and become even better.